The afternoon sun hammered down on Coronado Naval Base like judgment itself. Inside the kill house, Lieutenant Kira Donovan moved through shadows with a predator's grace. Her HK-416 rifle tracked every corner, every angle, as she led her team through the mock terrorist compound. Behind her, Petty Officer First Class Wyatt Callahan, call sign Viper, moved with the swagger of a man who'd survived 8 years in the teams and 4 combat tours. He'd seen things, done things, earned his place, and he resented the small redhead leading this exercise. Room 7, 30 seconds, the range officer's voice crackled. Kira stacked outside the door. 5'3", barely 118 pounds. She looked like she belonged in a college library, not clearing rooms with the world's deadliest warriors. Viper shouldered past her without asking. "I got this, Lieutenant." She said nothing, just repositioned to rear security. Orders were orders, even from someone 2 ranks below her. The door crashed open. Viper rushed through, rifle sweeping left but not right. Fatal mistake. The hostile target behind the door swung out. Blue paint exploded across his chest plate. "You're hit," the safety officer announced, but Viper couldn't accept it. He spun, fired wildly, swept his rifle across the room. 2 more pops. Paint splattered the targets marked hostage. Red lights flooded the room. Exercise terminated. Mission failed. Civilian casualties. 15 minutes later, 20 operators assembled in the after-action review room. Master Chief Williams stood at the front, replaying the footage 3 times. Each time showed the same thing: Viper's rushed breach, his corner-checking failure, his panicked shooting. "Callahan, explain." Viper's face had gone crimson. 8 years, 4 tours, and he just failed a basic drill in front of everyone. "Sir, the situation evolved rapidly." "Bullshit, you got cocky, broke protocol. Result? You're dead and you killed 2 civilians." Silence crushed down on the room. "Take your seat." But Viper didn't sit. He stood there, fists clenched, reputation bleeding out on that screen. His eyes found Kira 3 rows back. If someone had called out the corner instead of standing around, Kira's voice came back level. "You assigned me rear security. I held position as ordered." "Don't give me that shit," Viper's voice rose. "You think passing BUD/S as a diversity checkbox makes you qualified?" Kira stood, meeting his eyes. She had to look up 9 inches, but her gaze never wavered. "I ranked first in my class." "Scores don't mean shit when bullets fly. You're a liability, a fucking—" The word hung in the air. "Shut up, you bitch!" His right hand came around in a wide arc. The crack of palm on flesh echoed like a gunshot. 20 SEALs froze. Kira's head snapped to the side. For one long moment, she stood absolutely still, then slowly turned her face back to center. A red handprint bloomed across her cheek. Her green eyes had gone cold and flat as winter ice. Viper was already pulling back when Kira moved. Her left forearm came up in a textbook block, intercepting his wrist. At the same instant, her right hand formed a palm heel strike and drove forward with explosive force. 180 pounds of kinetic energy concentrated into 3 inches of palm, slamming into Viper's solar plexus below his sternum. The air left his lungs in a whoosh. His diaphragm spasmed. He doubled over. Kira didn't pause. Her right leg hooked behind his left knee while her left hand grabbed his collar. Osoto Gari. Major outer reap. A throw her grandfather had drilled into her 10,000 times. Viper went down hard. His face smacked concrete with a meaty thud. Before he could process what happened, Kira dropped her knee between his shoulder blades and captured his right arm. She twisted it up and back in a Kimura lock, applying pressure to the shoulder joint. 1 more inch and the joint would separate. Viper screamed, "Tap, tap, tap." Kira's voice came out ice cold. "Say my rank and name." "Fuck you, ah!" She added pressure. Say it. Lieutenant Donovan. Kira held the lock one more heartbeat, then released and stood in a single, smooth motion, coming to attention as if nothing had happened. The room remained frozen. 20 combat veterans stared at the small redhead standing over Wyatt Callahan's gasping form. The door banged open. Captain Nash Garrett entered fast, alerted by the commotion. 46, gray temples, face weathered by 25 years in naval special warfare. His eyes took in the scene instantly. What in the hell? Master Chief Williams interrupted. Sir, Petty Officer Callahan struck Lieutenant Donovan. The lieutenant defended herself. Textbook response. Garrett's jaw worked. He looked at Kira, then at Viper, pushing himself to his hands and knees. Callahan, you're on report. Assault on an officer. Get yourself to medical, then quarters. I'll deal with you later. Viper stumbled out, not meeting anyone's eyes. Garrett turned to Kira. Lieutenant Donovan, my office. Now. Captain Garrett's office was Spartan. Gray walls, metal desk, one window overlooking the Pacific where afternoon light sparkled like scattered diamonds. Garrett sat behind his desk. Kira stood at attention. Long silence. Somewhere outside, a helicopter beat the air. Finally, Garrett leaned back. At ease. Sit. Kira sat, back straight, hands on knees. The red mark had darkened to a bruise. That was the fastest takedown I've seen in 25 years. Where'd you learn that? My grandfather, sir. Master Chief Roland Blackwood. Garrett's expression shifted. Roland Blackwood. The Reaper. Yes, sir. I served under him. Desert Storm, 91. I was 22, fresh from Bud/S. Thought I was hot shit. He saved my life in Kuwait City. Pause. So he trained you? Since I was 6, sir, after my father died. Patrick Donovan, Somalia, 93. I knew him too. He was one of the best. Garrett studied her. Hell of a legacy to live up to. I'm not trying to live up to anything, sir. I'm trying to serve. That's the right answer. Garrett opened a folder. Here's the situation. I'm not punishing you for the takedown. Callahan assaulted you first. Clear UCMJ violation. But you just humiliated a senior petty officer in front of his peers. Callahan's got friends, and half this base thinks you don't belong. The other half is waiting for you to fail. Kira said nothing. Women in the teams is still controversial. Fair or not, you're under a microscope. Every mistake magnified, every success scrutinized. I understand, sir. Do you? Because I need to know if you can handle being on a team where half the operators don't trust you. Kira met his eyes. I'll earn their trust through performance, one mission at a time. Garrett studied her, then opened a classified folder and slid it across. High priority op, Gdansk, Poland. Someone stealing U.S. military hardware, Javelin missiles, encrypted comms. Intelligence suggests a rogue PMC cell led by former U.S. military. Kira scanned the file. Target photos. Dalton Graves, former 75th Rangers. I need 8 operators, small footprint, surgical precision. I'm considering you for the team. Sir, I just completed BUD/S. This can't wait. On paper, you're perfect. Top marksman, fluent Russian, urban warfare certified, but paper doesn't bleed. He paused. Your grandfather called me yesterday, asked me to give you a fair shot. Kira's jaw tightened. I don't want special treatment. I know, that's why I'm offering. But I need to know you can handle the real thing, with a team that doesn't want you there. I can handle it, sir. Briefing tomorrow, 0600. Don't be late. Garrett closed the folder. One more thing. Sir, your father was the best damn SEAL I ever knew. He died pulling civilians out of Mogadishu while everyone else ran. Your grandfather carried that guilt for years. Kira swallowed hard. This op matters, but don't let family legacy cloud your judgment. Operate on facts, not emotion. Clear? Crystal clear, sir. Dismissed. Pacific Beach, San Diego. 2 blocks from the ocean where waves provided constant white noise. Roland Blackwood's house was a modest bungalow, the kind you'd find in 1,000 California beach towns. But the inside told a different story. Photographs covered the walls, spanning 45 years of naval special warfare. Grenada, 1983, young men in tiger-striped camouflage. Panama, 1989, night jump photos, parachutes against dark sky. Desert Storm, 1991, burning oil fields. Somalia, 1993, a photo Kira always avoided because her father was in it. Roland answered the door wearing faded jeans and a SEAL Team 2 t-shirt washed 1,000 times. At 69, he still stood 6'1", still had broad shoulders and narrow waist, gray buzz cut, long scar along his left jawline from Panama shrapnel. He took one look at the bruise on Kira's face, and his eyes went flat and cold. Who? Petty Officer First Class Wyatt Callahan. He slapped me during after-action review. And? I put him on the floor in 2.3 seconds. Kimura lock, just like you taught me. Roland's face split into a fierce grin. That's my girl. Come in. Inside, he poured 2 whiskeys. She took a small sip. He drank half in one pull. Tell me everything. So she did. The training exercise, Viper's mistake, the review, the slap, the takedown, Garrett's office, the mission offer. Roland listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet a moment. Garrett called me yesterday, told me you were ready but needed seasoning. I told him to give you one real op and you'd prove it. Grandfather, I don't want special treatment. He raised his hand. Stop. You think I'd risk my reputation recommending someone unqualified? I trained you harder than I trained your father. You're ready. He walked to a filing cabinet, pulled out a folder, placed it between them. Your target, Dalton Graves, former Rangers, discharged 2015 after a friendly fire incident in Helmand Province. 3 Marines KIA. Kira opened the folder. Graves stared back, cold gray eyes, expressionless. Recent surveillance photos showed burn scars on his right forearm. I interviewed him, Roland said quietly. Part of the discharge investigation. He was broken. PTSD, survivor's guilt, rage at a system that trained him to kill, then threw him away when he couldn't handle what he'd done. You tried to help him. I try to help all broken warriors. Roland's voice went distant. Your father was one I saved. Graves is one I lost to the darkness. Kira studied the photos. Something about Graves's eyes reminded her of wounded animals past saving, the ones that only knew how to bite. Come on, Roland said. I've got 2 hours before you need rack time. Let's make them count. Roland's backyard backed against protected wetlands. No neighbors. Natural sound buffer. He'd built a private shooting range decades ago, properly licensed, regularly inspected. He brought out a rifle case from his gun safe. Olive drab, covered in stickers from places that didn't exist on maps. He opened it with the reverence other men reserve for religious artifacts. Inside lay a Remington 700, custom-built, circa 1982. Macmillan, a 3-stock, dark green. Vintage Schmidt in Bender scope, pristine condition. Modern suppressor, the only concession to current technology. Carried this in the Mediterranean, 82 to 85, Roland said, lifting it out. Cold War. We tracked Soviet submarines, marked targets for airstrikes, did things politicians will never admit. He handed it to Kira. 53 confirmed eliminations with this rifle. The weight felt right, heavier than modern rifles, but perfectly balanced, like it was alive. Roland set up a target 600 yards downrange, steel silhouette, human-sized, then turned back to Kira. Modern scopes do all the math. Windage, drop, Coriolis effect. Makes you lazy. But technology fails. Batteries die. Glass breaks. Then all you've got is knowledge and instinct. He gestured to the target. Calculate. Kira closed her eyes, feeling the environment. Temperature 68 Fahrenheit, humidity 45%, wind 8 miles per hour, left to right, gusting. Don't rush. She opened her eyes. Elevation difference approximately 20 feet. At 600 yards, 308 Winchester drops about 68 inches. Need 11.2 MOA elevation adjustment. Pause. Wind isn't constant. Need to time between gusts. Coriolis effect. Northern hemisphere, right-hand drift. At this range, maybe 2 inches. Compensates slightly left. Roland nodded. Now shoot, don't think. Feel it. Kira dropped into prone position. Ground warm from afternoon sun. She settled the rifle into her shoulder pocket, cheek weld perfect, eye aligned with scope. Breathe in, breathe out. Her heart rate slowed from 60 to 50 to 45 beats per minute. In the space between heartbeats, the world became crystal clear. She could hear individual waves hitting the beach 2 blocks away, could feel the subtle shift in wind pressure. The crosshairs settled on target center mass. She waited for the gust to pass, felt the moment of stillness. Between heartbeats, she squeezed. The rifle kicked. The suppressor reduced the crack to a muffled thump. 600 yards away, the steel rang like a bell. Roland had binoculars up, dead center. Kira ejected the brass, caught it in her palm. Still warm. The rifle knows where to go. No, Roland's voice was firm. You know. The rifle is just metal and wood. The warrior makes the shot. They packed up as the sun dropped toward the horizon, painting sky orange and gold. Your father died because politicians sent warriors into an impossible situation with no clear objective and no support, Roland said quietly, then abandoned them when it went sideways. Graves is broken because the system trained him to kill, then threw him away when he couldn't handle the weight. He turned to face Kira directly. But you're different. You're not joining for glory or revenge. You're doing this because it's right, because someone needs to stand between evil and the innocent. From his pocket, he pulled out an old compass. Brass, worn smooth by decades of handling. Glass face scratched but intact. This got me home from places that don't exist on maps. Beirut, Sarajevo, Benghazi, all before they were headlines. Now it's yours. Kira held it carefully, feeling history's weight. What if I fail them? The team doesn't trust me. Then you prove yourself, not with words, with actions, one mission at a time. He put his hand on her shoulder. The slap today? That was a test. Not from Callahan, from fate, testing whether you'd respond with rage or discipline. You chose discipline. That moment defined everything that follows. They stood there as the sun touched the horizon. Grandfather and granddaughter. 2 generations of warriors, bound by blood and something deeper. A code that had nothing to do with gender and everything to do with honor. I'll be watching, Roland said. Not because you need me to, but because I want to see you become what I always knew you could be. What's that? Better than me. The next morning arrived cold and gray, 0530. Kira had slept 3 hours. Enough. In BUD/S, she'd learned to function on far less. She arrived at the SEAL Team 7 briefing room at 0545. Early, but not first. Captain Garrett was already there, along with Senior Chief Elliot Reeves, the team's senior medic. Reeves was 43, solid build of a man who'd spent 2 decades hauling wounded teammates from danger. When he saw Kira, he smiled genuinely. Donovan, your grandfather saved my life. Kuwait City, February 91. I took shrapnel from an IED, bleeding out. He carried me 2 clicks under fire to extract. I didn't know that, Senior Chief. Call me Doc. Everyone does. He gestured to coffee. Your first op. You'll want the caffeine. By 0600, 8 operators had assembled. Kira recognized most from yesterday. Wyatt Callahan, Viper, sat in back. Bandage on his right hand wouldn't meet her eyes. Good sign. He'd accepted reality. Captain Garrett stood at front, next to a large screen showing satellite imagery. Listen up. Operation Glass Falcon. Classified, compartmented, need to know only. He clicked to the next slide. Dalton Graves's face filled the screen. Target, Staff Sergeant Dalton Graves, former Rangers. Discharged 2015. Currently leading a PMC cell of approximately 20 personnel. Next slide. Aerial view of an industrial complex. Location, Gdansk, Poland. Former Soviet warehouse district. Intelligence indicates Graves has been stealing U.S. military hardware. Confirmed inventory includes 40 FGM-148 Javelin anti-tank missiles and encrypted SINCARS radio equipment. A murmur ran through the room. Javelin missiles in terrorist hands could kill hundreds. Timeline: 72 hours before weapons shipped to Syria. Hezbollah buyers already en route. Garrett let that sink in. Objective: secure or destroy the weapons cache. Capture Graves alive if possible. He's got intel we need. ROE: weapons free on hostiles, but this is NATO ally territory. Zero collateral, zero international incident. He clicked to team roster. Team 7 Alpha, 8 operators, Captain Garrett, team leader, Senior Chief Reeves, medical, PO1 Sullivan, sniper, call sign Reaper, PO1 Callahan, breacher, call sign Viper, PO2 Hammond, comms, call sign Tiny, PO2 Fletcher, demolitions, call sign Sparks, PO3 Crawford, newest member, call sign Rookie. Pause. And Lieutenant Donovan, intelligence and infiltration specialist, call sign Wraith. Every eye turned to Kira. Insertion via halo jump, 25,000 feet over Baltic. RHIB to Polish coast, ground transport to Gdansk. Expected opposition, 20 hostiles, military trained, heavily armed. Garrett looked directly at Kira. Lieutenant Donovan will conduct initial recon. She's fluent in Russian, trained in solo infiltration. Once she marks targets, we go loud. Before anyone could respond, Viper stood. Captain, permission to speak. Garrett's expression didn't change. Go ahead, petty officer. Viper turned to face the room, jaw tight but voice steady. I want to apologize to Lieutenant Donovan. Yesterday I assaulted her, violated UCMJ, disrespected her rank, dishonored this team. He looked at Kira directly. I let pride and prejudice cloud my judgment. That's inexcusable. I'm asking permission to serve alongside you on this operation, if you'll have me. The room was silent enough to hear the ventilation system. Kira stood. Apology accepted, Petty Officer Callahan. Let's focus on the mission. She extended her hand. Viper shook it. Not friendship, not yet, but professional respect, the currency of warriors. Doc Reeves nodded approvingly. A few operators relaxed. The temperature shifted from hostile to neutral. Not warm, but workable. We wheels up in 6 hours, Garrett said. Full combat load. Questions? No one spoke. Then get your gear squared away. Dismissed. The C-17 Globemaster climbed through 40,000 feet, carrying Team 7 Alpha toward Germany. Cabin loud with engine noise, cold enough to see breath, dimly lit by red tactical lights. Kira sat on canvas bench seat, checking equipment for the third time. HK-416 rifle, cleaned and test-fired that morning. Sig Sauer P226 pistol, 15-round magazine plus 1 chambered. PVS-14 night vision monocular, plate carrier with ceramic trauma plates rated to stop 7.62 NATO. 4 frag grenades, 2 flashbangs, tactical radio with encrypted frequency hopping. Doc Reeves sat next to her, had to shout over engine noise. First op jitters? No, Senior Chief. Liar. But he said it with a smile. Everybody's got them. The day you stop feeling it is the day you've lost your edge. He looked at her seriously. Your grandfather told me something once. Kuwait, 91, right before we hit the city. He said fear is just your body getting ready for violence. The trick is to ride it like a wave, not fight it. Did it work? I'm still here, aren't I? Doc pulled out a photograph from his vest pocket. Worn, creased, protected in plastic. It showed a younger version of himself in Roland Blackwood, faces painted, weapons ready, standing before a Humvee with burning oil fields behind them. He was the best warrior I ever knew, Doc said quietly. Not because he was fastest or strongest, because he never quit, never left anyone behind, and never, ever compromised his honor. He looked at Kira. I see that in you. Whatever the young guys think, I know Blackwood blood runs true. Before Kira could respond, Viper walked over, stood awkwardly a moment, then sat on Kira's other side. Look, he said, I know sorry doesn't cut it, but I want you to know, on this op, I've got your back. For real. Kira studied him. His eyes were direct, honest. Whatever he'd been yesterday, he was trying to be something different today. I know, she said simply. They sat in silence for a while, the three of them, feeling the aircraft carry them toward war. Outside the windows, the sun set over Atlantic, painting clouds gold and crimson. Kira pulled out her grandfather's compass, watched the needle swing and settle, pointing north, pointing toward Poland, toward Dalton Graves and 40 Javelin missiles, toward her first real mission. The needle held steady, unwavering, like the man who'd carried it through decades of war, like the code he'd passed down to her: honor, duty, sacrifice. 3 words, simple words, but in the world Kira was entering, they meant everything. The warehouse district sprawled across eastern Gdansk like a concrete graveyard. Soviet-era buildings, most abandoned since the Cold War ended, stood silent against night sky. Rust ate through chain-link fences. Weeds pushed through cracked asphalt. This was a place the modern world had forgotten, perfect for men who needed to stay forgotten. Team 7 Alpha staged 400 meters out, hidden in tree line bordering the industrial complex. Through her night vision monocular, Kira could see 3 massive warehouses arranged in U-shape, guard towers at each corner, searchlights sweeping in predictable patterns, chain-link fence topped with razor wire, amateur security. Professional criminals would have randomized the searchlight timing. Captain Garrett crouched next to her, studying the same view through thermal imaging. Count 6 hostiles on exterior patrol. More inside, guaranteed. Guard rotation every 20 minutes, Kira whispered. Cameras on north and east gates, but I see a blind spot on south perimeter. That's your entry point. Garrett lowered his scope. Wraith, you're cleared for solo infiltration. Get inside, scout interior, mark weapons cache, identify graves if possible. 30 minutes, then you call for extract or we come get you. Understood. ROE, this is recon. Do not engage unless compromise is imminent. We need intel, not bodies. Clear? Crystal clear, sir. Garrett studied her face in dim starlight. Your grandfather would tell you to trust your instincts. I'm telling you the same. You see something wrong, you abort. No heroics. No heroics, Kira repeated. She checked gear one final time. HK-416 slung across back, suppressed. SIG P-226 in concealed appendix holster under black jacket. Combat knife strapped to vest. No plates, too much weight, too much noise. If she got into a firefight during recon, armor wouldn't save her anyway. Doc Reeves gave her a quick shoulder pat. Stay low, stay quiet, come back. Viper said nothing, just nodded once. Respect between operators needed no words. Kira slipped into darkness. The approach took 12 minutes. She moved through shadows like smoke, using every piece of cover, abandoned vehicles, drainage ditches, piles of rusted machinery. Cold September air carried the smell of Baltic Sea, salt and diesel in decay. At the south fence, she went to ground and waited. watched guard patrol pass 70 meters west. Two men, AK-47s slung casually, talking in Russian. She caught fragments, complaining about cold, about Graves being paranoid, about wanting to get paid and get out of Poland. Not professional soldiers, just mercenaries. That made them dangerous in a different way, unpredictable, motivated only by money. When they disappeared around the warehouse corner, Kira moved. She pulled compact bolt cutters from her vest and worked on the fence, cutting links one at a time. Slow, quiet. Each snip sounded impossibly loud in her ears, but she knew sound carried differently than perception suggested. 15 seconds, hole large enough to slide through. She was inside. The compound's interior was a maze of cargo containers, pallets wrapped in plastic, machinery covered by tarps. Good concealment, but also good places for guards to hide. Kira moved in short bursts, advance 3 meters, freeze, scan, advance again. Two more guards passed within 5 meters of her position, never saw her. She was wearing solid black, face painted, moving only when their eyes pointed elsewhere. Battlefield invisibility wasn't about being unseen, it was about being unremarkable when seen. A shadow among shadows. The central warehouse loomed ahead, 3 stories of corrugated metal and concrete. Light leaked from windows on second floor. She could hear voices inside, muffled by walls. She found her entry point on south side, a ventilation grate, elevated 8 feet off ground, rusty, but screws came out easily with her multi-tool. She pulled herself up and through, moving like a cat into darkness. Inside, she was on a catwalk running along the warehouse's upper level. Industrial space below filled with crates and equipment. She activated her PVS-14 night vision. The world turned green. And there it was, wooden crates stenciled with U.S. Army in faded black letters. Dozens of them arranged in neat rows. She zoomed in with her monocular, reading serial numbers, lot codes. FGM-148 Javelin, the anti-tank missile system that could punch through armor from 2,000 meters. In terrorist hands, each one could destroy a building, kill dozens. She keyed her radio, barely breathing the words. Wraith to actual. I have eyes on weapons cache. Confirming Javelin missiles. Count unknown. Central warehouse. Garrett's voice crackled back, distorted by encryption. Copy. Any sign of Graves? Kira shifted position on catwalk, scanning warehouse floor below. 20 men, maybe more, moving between crates, loading, organizing, preparing for shipment. Then she saw the office. Glass walls on warehouse's north side, second floor, lights on inside. Through windows, a figure paced back and forth, phone pressed to ear. Dalton Graves. She recognized him from briefing photos. Tall, muscular, burn scars visible even from this distance. Positive ID on Graves. Northwest office, second floor. Outstanding. Mark your position and prepare for... Kira's voice cut him off. Wait, something's wrong. She'd shifted her view to the warehouse's northwest corner, drawn by movement. What she saw made her blood run cold. 6 people, sitting on floor, hands bound behind backs, cloth bags over heads, guards standing over them with rifles. Actual, we have hostages, 6 civilians bound and hooded, northwest corner of central warehouse. Silence on radio. Then Garrett's voice, tight with controlled anger. Can you identify them? Kira zoomed in. One hostage had shifted position, and the guard had kicked them back. The hood had slipped slightly. She caught a glimpse of a face, a jacket with visible patches, press credentials, CNN logo. American journalists, she whispered. I count 6, possibly more. Graves has them as insurance. God damn it. Garrett's curse was barely audible. Stand by, Wraith. She could hear the team leader thinking through options. A loud assault would get hostages killed, but they couldn't leave American civilians in terrorist hands. Kira kept watching. Graves had emerged from his office, walking down to warehouse floor. He approached the hostages, and one of his men removed the hood from a woman. She looked 30s, dark hair, terror in her eyes but also defiance. Graves crouched, said something Kira couldn't hear from this distance. The woman spat at him. He backhanded her casually. She fell sideways. Kira's finger tightened on her rifle, then relaxed. Not yet. Not without orders. Not without a plan. Graves kicked the woman once, then gestured to his men. They replaced her hood and moved away. Graves walked back toward his office, pulling out phone again. Garrett's voice came through her earpiece. New plan. Wraith, can you get closer to Graves? Plant a tracker? Kira scanned the catwalk system. It ran along all four walls, with stairs leading down to warehouse floor. Too exposed. If she went down there, 20 guards would see her. Negative, too much exposure. Then we need a different approach. Pause. What if you weren't sneaking? Sir? Graves is expecting buyers. Eastern European. What if you walked in the front door? Kira's mind raced through implications. It could work. She spoke fluent Russian, could pass for Spetsnaz or private contractor. But if her cover broke, she'd be alone in the middle of 20 armed men. It's risky, she said. It's all we've got. Those hostages die if we assault. But if you can get close to Graves, convince him you're a buyer, we can use the distraction to position for rescue. Kira looked down at warehouse floor, at Graves in his office, at hostages in the corner, at 20 men who would kill her without hesitation if they knew who she really was. Roland's voice echoed in memory. Fear is just your body getting ready for violence. Ride it like a wave. I can do it, she said. You have a panic word. If things go sideways, say Belarus and we're coming through the walls. Understood? Understood. Going dark for repositioning. Kira backed away from her observation point and descended the catwalk stairs on warehouse's east side, away from activity. She found a dark corner and made herself presentable. Removed tactical vest, hid it behind crates, kept the SIG P226 in concealed holster, but ditched her rifle. Too obvious. She let her red hair down from tactical bun, wiped face paint off with a rag. When she looked at her reflection in a metal surface, a different person looked back. Not a SEAL operator, just a woman in dark clothes who could be anyone. She took 3 deep breaths, centered herself, and walked toward the warehouse's main entrance like she owned the place. The guard at gate raised his AK-47. Stop! Who are you? Kira answered in Russian, her accent flawless. I'm here for Graves. Tell him Volkov sent his advance scout. Guard's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Volkov didn't mention sending a woman. Volkov doesn't tell you everything. She let ice creep into her voice. Call Graves, now. I don't have time for gate guards. The challenge in her tone did what compliance would not. Guard keyed his radio, spoke rapidly. A moment later, response crackled back. Guard's posture changed. Not friendly, but no longer hostile. He'll see you, but if you're lying, you won't leave here alive. If I were lying, I wouldn't have walked through your front gate. Guard opened the entrance. Kira walked into the warehouse. 20 pairs of eyes tracked her movement. She felt their stares like physical weight, but kept her expression neutral, confident, like this was exactly where she belonged. Dalton Graves emerged from his office and descended metal stairs to warehouse floor. Up close, he was even more imposing than photos suggested. 6'2", maybe 220, solid muscle under black tactical shirt. Burn scars on right forearm were extensive, puckered and discolored. Afghanistan, probably. IED or white phosphorus. His gray eyes studied her with cold calculation of a predator evaluating prey. Volkov sent you? His English was American, Midwest accent. You're smaller than I expected. Kira didn't flinch. I'm the brains, he's the money. You want to keep discussing my size or show me the merchandise? Something flickered in Graves's expression. Amusement, maybe, or respect. You've got attitude. I like that. What's your name? Irina. Last name? Do you give your last name to arms dealers you just met? Graves smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Fair point. He gestured toward crates. Take a look, but touch anything without permission, and my men will put you in the ground. Kira walked to the nearest crate. One of Graves's men had already opened it for inspection. Inside, nestled in foam padding, sat a Javelin Command launch unit, the reusable launcher component. Beside it, 3 missile tubes, each containing a fire-and-forget anti-tank guided missile. She pulled out her phone and took photos, making a show of examining serial numbers and manufacturing dates. The photos were actually transmitting in real time to team outside, encrypted burst transmission. 40 launchers, 120 missiles total, Graves said, plus encrypted SINCGARS radio systems, PVS-14 night vision, 500 M4 rifles, everything your buyers requested. Impressive, Kira kept her voice neutral. Payment terms? Half on delivery confirmation, half when cargo reaches final destination. Cyprus bank account, untraceable. She nodded, took more photos. Volkov will be satisfied. He'll arrive in 4 hours to finalize the transaction. She started to turn away. Mission accomplished. Intel gathered. Time to extract. But Graves's voice stopped her. One more thing, Irina. She turned back, keeping expression neutral. Graves was smiling now, but it was the smile of a shark. What's your father's patronymic? The question hit like ice water. In Russian culture, everyone used patronymics, father's name plus a suffix. Ivan Petrov's daughter would be Irina Petrovna. It was so fundamental that no native Russian would hesitate. Kira's mind raced. Her cover identity hadn't gone that deep. She'd been focused on speaking perfect Russian, not on building complete cultural background. The micro pause was barely half a second, but it was enough. You're American, Graves said, and pulled his Glock 19 from hip holster. I can tell by the hesitation. Russians don't pause on their own patronymic. He raised his voice, addressing the warehouse. Seize her! Kira's hand was already moving. The SIG P226 cleared concealed holster in 0.4 seconds. Her first shot took guard to her left in center mass. He wasn't wearing plates. He dropped. Second shot targeted guard to her right, but he was already diving for cover. Rounds sparked off concrete. Graves was faster than she expected, already dropping behind a crate, yelling orders. Alarm klaxons began wailing. 20 men, suddenly alert, pulling weapons, looking for her. Kira sprinted for nearest cover, a stack of wooden pallets, as bullets chewed the air where she'd been standing. The distinctive crack of AK-47 fire echoed through warehouse, impossibly loud in enclosed space. She keyed her radio between shots. Belarus! Belarus! I'm compromised! Central warehouse, northwest section. Moving. A bullet smashed into pallet 3 inches from her head, spraying splinters. She ducked, returned fire blind, just to keep their heads down. Outside, 400 meters away, Captain Garrett's voice came through clear and hard. All units, we're going loud. Breach! 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 Kira changed position, rolling to new cover as bullets tracked her previous location. She popped up, acquired target, a guard advancing from her left, and put 2 rounds into his chest. He went down hard, but there were too many. 10, maybe 12 men, converging on her position. She had 1 magazine left after this one. 30 rounds total against a dozen trained killers. The math didn't work. She dropped back into cover as sustained burst of automatic fire tore through her position. Wooden pallets were disintegrating under assault, shredded by high-velocity rounds. In another few seconds, they'd offer no protection at all. Then from outside, she heard the beautiful sound of breaching charges detonating. 2 massive booms shook warehouse walls. Main doors blew inward in showers of sparks and twisted metal. Flashbangs followed, 4, 5, 6 explosions of light and sound that turned warehouse into sensory chaos. Team 7 Alpha came through the breach like the wrath of God. Captain Garrett first, HK-416 spitting suppressed 3-round bursts. Doc Reeves right behind him, already identifying threats and dropping them with surgical precision. Reaper, Marcus Sullivan, up on a catwalk with his SR-25 rifle, taking down targets before they even knew where shots came from. And Viper, Wyatt Callahan, the man who'd slapped Kira less than 48 hours ago, came through firing from hip, drawing attention to himself, making himself the target so others could advance. "Wraith, down!" he screamed across warehouse. Kira dropped flat as Viper's full auto burst passed over her head and into 3 guards who'd been flanking her position. They went down in a tangle of limbs and blood. "Move! Go, go, go!" Viper advanced, putting himself between Kira and remaining threats. She didn't need to be told twice. Kira rolled to her feet and sprinted toward Team's entry point, firing as she moved. The SIG P226 bucked in her hand. 2 rounds, hostile down. 2 more rounds, another hostile stumbling backward. The warehouse had descended into absolute chaos. Smoke from flashbangs mixing with muzzle flash from a dozen weapons. Men shouting in Russian, English, Polish. The sharp crack of rifle fire. The wet impact of bullets finding flesh. Through it all, Team 7 Alpha moved like choreographed death. They'd trained for this, close quarters battle against superior numbers. Every operator knew his sector, his lanes of fire, his responsibilities. Doc Reeves reached hostages first, cutting their bonds with tactical knife. "U.S. Navy, keep your heads down." The 6 journalists, terrified but alive, scrambled toward him. He shielded them with his body while calling for extract. Garrett and Kira converged on Graves's office, where the target had retreated. Glass walls offered no protection. Garrett put 4 rounds through them, forcing Graves to dive for better cover. But when they breached the office, it was empty. A back door stood open, leading to external fire escape. "He's running!" Kira started for the door. Garrett grabbed her shoulder. "Negative. Hostages first. We let him go." Every instinct in Kira's body screamed to pursue. Graves was right there, 50 meters away, escaping into Polish night. But Captain Garrett's order was absolute, and it was right. Mission priority, hostages, weapons, then target. She forced herself to turn away from door. The firefight lasted another 90 seconds before surviving guards broke and ran. Final count, 14 PMC contractors dead, 4 escaped with Graves. 0 SEAL casualties, though tiny, Tyler Hammond, had taken a round in his plate carrier that would leave a hell of a bruise. All 6 hostages secured and alive. The weapons cache destroyed. Sparks had already rigged thermite charges on Javelin crates. When they detonated, white-hot chemical fire would melt everything into slag. But Graves had escaped, and that meant the mission was incomplete. Team 7 Alpha regrouped at warehouse entrance as Polish police sirens wailed in distance. They had maybe 3 minutes before local authorities arrived. Hostages were already being loaded into a blacked-out van that would take them to U.S. Embassy. Kira stood next to Viper, both breathing hard, adrenaline still singing through their veins. He looked at her, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw something other than resentment in his eyes. "You held them off for 3 minutes alone," he said. "That's damn good work, Lieutenant. You provided covering fire, saved my life." "Yeah, well," he shrugged, suddenly awkward. "Figured I owed you one. We're even now." "We're teammates now," he corrected. "Different thing." Before she could respond, Captain Garrett called them over. He was standing with Doc Reeves, looking at something on a laptop they'd recovered from Graves's office. "We've got a problem," Garrett said. "A big one." The laptop screen showed a digital map, but not of Poland, San Diego, California. Red markers indicated positions. One marker, larger than others, sat on a residential street in Pacific Beach. Address, 4247 Seabreeze Lane, Roland Blackwood's home. Graves was using this warehouse as a decoy, Garrett explained. He knew we'd come for the weapons, but while we were focused here, he was planning something else. He clicked to another file. Transaction records, bank transfers, flight bookings, United Airlines Flight 882, Warsaw to Chicago O'Hare, departed 6 hours ago. American Airlines Flight 1547, Chicago to San Diego, departed 2 hours ago. Graves isn't in Poland, Doc Reeves said quietly. He never was. He sent his lieutenant to run the warehouse op. He's been in the air for 8 hours. Kira's blood ran cold. Heading where? Garrett pulled up more files. Surveillance photos of Roland, recent ones, taken in San Diego. Outside his house, at the grocery store, at the shooting range. Document titled final_target.pdf. Inside, detailed reconnaissance of Roland Blackwood's home. Floor plans, daily routine, security assessment. Your grandfather, Garrett said looking at Kira. Graves is going after him personally. This was never about the memorial service. It was always about Roland. Kira's voice came out flat. When does that flight land? Garrett checked his watch. 30 minutes ago. If Graves has ground transport ready, he's already there. Kira was already moving, pulling out her phone, dialing Roland's number. It rang, and rang, and rang. Voicemail. She tried again. Same result. We need immediate air transport to San Diego, Garrett was saying into his radio. Military priority. Authorization Garrett 7 Alpha 01. Response crackled back. Nearest available aircraft is C-130 at Ramstein Air Base, Germany. Flight time, 10 hours. Kira did the math. 10 hours to San Diego. Graves had arrived 30 minutes ago. They'd be 10.5 hours too late. Captain, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. My grandfather is alone. Graves has at least 3 men with him, probably the ones who escaped the warehouse. They're heavily armed, and they want him dead. Garrett's jaw was tight. We're moving as fast as we can. It's not fast enough. Kira looked at her team. At Viper, who'd gone from enemy to ally in 48 hours. At Doc, who owed his life to Roland. At Reaper, Tiny, Sparks, Rookie. At Captain Garrett, who Roland had saved in Kuwait City 33 years ago. My grandfather trained me for 20 years, she said. Taught me everything he knows. If anyone can survive until we get there, it's him. She didn't say what they were all thinking. Roland was 69 years old, retired, alone, against 4 trained killers in their prime. The odds weren't good. Wheels up in 15 minutes, Garrett said. Everyone move. As the team scrambled to their vehicles, Kira tried Roland's number one more time. Still voicemail. She left a message, keeping her voice calm. Grandfather, it's Kira. Dalton Graves is coming for you. He's in San Diego now. I'm en route, but I'm 10 hours out. I need you to do what you do best. Survive. I'm coming. I love you. She hung up and climbed into the van. 10 hours. An eternity in a gunfight. But Roland Blackwood hadn't survived 45 years in naval special warfare by being easy to kill. She had to believe he could hold out. Had to believe the lessons he taught her worked both ways. Had to believe that when she crashed through his door in 10 hours, he'd still be alive. The alternative was unthinkable. Pacific Beach, San Diego, 21:47 hours local time. Roland Blackwood sat in his living room, cleaning the Remington 700 he'd given Kira to shoot 2 days ago. The house was quiet except for distant sound of waves. On the walls around him, 45 years of photographs watched in silence. His phone rang. Unknown number. Blackwood. Master Chief. The voice was familiar. Male, mid-30s, carrying old pain and fresh rage. Do you remember me? Roland's hand tightened on the rifle. He knew that voice. From 9 years ago. From a military tribunal where he'd sat on the panel that ended a man's career. Dalton Graves. Good memory. I'm 3 blocks from your house. Thought I'd pay a visit. Discuss old times. How you destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life, son. I tried to help you. You called me broken. Graves's voice was cold steel. Unfit for service. Sent me to the psychiatrist like I was defective. But tonight, I'm going to show you what this broken soldier can do. The line went dead. Roland stood smoothly, moved to his gun safe. His hands were steady as he punched in the combination. Pulled out his Sig Sauer P226, the same model Kira carried. Loaded magazine, chambered round, flicked safety off. Checked the peephole in his front door. 4 men approaching down the sidewalk. Graves in front, recognizable even at this distance by his distinctive build and the way he moved. 3 others behind him, carrying rifle cases. Roland moved through his house with practiced efficiency. He'd run this scenario in his head 1,000 times over the years. Every warrior worth his salt prepared for the day violence came home. He killed the lights, took position in the kitchen, behind the concrete support wall that provided cover from the front door and sightlines to the living room. The Remington 700 went on the kitchen counter, loaded and ready. Sig P226 in his right hand. His phone buzzed. Text from Kira. Graves coming for you. We're en route. ETA 10 hours. Stay alive. Roland smiled grimly, typed back with his left thumb. I'll be here when you arrive. Love you, little warrior. Then he set the phone down, raised his pistol, and waited. The front door exploded inward with a crash that shook pictures off the walls. Not a battering ram-shaped charge. Professional entry. The kind Roland had taught hundreds of SEALs over 4 decades. 4 men flowed through the breach in tactical formation. Graves first, Glock in hand. 3 others with AR-15, night vision goggles mounted on helmets. But Roland had killed his lights knowing this would happen. Had positioned himself where thermal imaging would struggle to pick him up against the hot water heater. Had spent 45 years learning how to kill men who came through doors. The first man through never saw it coming. Roland's Sig P226 coughed twice, suppressed subsonic ammunition he'd loaded himself. 2 rounds center mass. The man dropped with barely a sound. Second man swung his rifle toward the muzzle flash, but Roland had already moved. 3 steps left, new angle, 2 more shots. Second man fell. Spread out, Graves barked. He's in the kitchen area. The third man went high, tried to clear the kitchen from the living room. Bad angle. Roland popped up from behind the counter, Remington 700 in his hands now. The .308 round at close range nearly tore the man in half. He flew backwards, crashed into Graves's antique bookshelf. Photos of Kira, of Patrick, of 45 years of service rained down around his body. That left Graves, alone now. His 3-man team dead in under 15 seconds. You're good, Graves called out from behind the overturned couch. But you're old, and I'm patient. I can wait you out. Roland said nothing. Relocated again, moving to new position. His left knee, the one he'd blown out in Panama, was screaming at him. His shoulder, shrapnel from Grenada, was stiff. He was 69 years old and his body was a catalog of old wounds. But his mind was sharp, and his hands were steady. I killed 3 Marines in Helmand, Graves continued. Haunted me for years. But you know what I realized? The first one's the hardest. After that it gets easier, much easier. He fired twice, wild shots through the wall, nowhere near Roland's position. I've killed 17 men since you declared me unfit, each one easier than the last. You know why? Because I'm not broken. I'm honest. Honest about what war makes us, what it made you, what it made me. Roland watched the angles, calculating. Graves was trying to draw him out, get him talking, pinpoint his position. Classic amateur mistake. Roland had taught better tactics to 19-year-olds fresh out of boot camp. He moved again, circled around toward the hallway, using shadows and furniture for cover. His breathing was controlled, heart rate steady. This was what he'd done for 4.5 decades. Old bodies, sure. Old wounds, absolutely. But old skills died last. Graves must have heard something. A floorboard creak, maybe, because he spun and fired. 3 shots, rapid succession. One of them caught Roland in his left shoulder, the one already weakened by old shrapnel. Roland grunted, stumbled back. Graves was up and moving, pressing the advantage. "I got you, old man." But Roland had trained with torn muscles, with broken bones, with wounds that should have killed him. Pain was just information. He'd learned that in places whose names were still classified. As Graves rounded the corner, Roland was waiting. On one knee, Sig P226 raised in his right hand, left arm hanging useless at his side. "You're right," Roland said. "War does make us into something different, but we choose what we become. You chose darkness. I chose to keep fighting for the light." He fired. 3 shots. Center mass, throat, head. The precise pattern he drilled into Kira 10,000 times. Graves went down. Roland stayed in position, weapon raised, watching for any movement. Seconds ticked by. Graves didn't move. Roland approached carefully, kicked the Glock away from Graves's hand. Dead. All 4 of them. Roland sat down heavily, back against the wall, left shoulder bleeding steadily. He pulled out his phone with his right hand, the left wouldn't respond anymore, and dialed 911. "This is Master Chief Roland Blackwood, U.S. Navy retired. 4 armed intruders broke into my home. All 4 are deceased. I'm wounded. Send police and ambulance to 4247 Seabreeze Lane, Pacific Beach." The dispatcher started asking questions, but Roland had already hung up. He dialed another number. Long distance. Had to go through military switchboard. "This is Blackwood. Authorization Blackwood Reaper 27. I need to reach Captain Nash Garrett, Team 7 Alpha, currently in flight to San Diego. Patch me through. Now." 20 seconds of clicking, routing, encryption handshakes. Then, "Blackwood, this is Garrett. Sitrep?" Graves came for me, brought 3 men, all 4 hostile KIA. I'm wounded, non-critical, ambulance en route. There was a sound that might have been a sob or a laugh. "You stubborn old bastard. Kira's been losing her mind for 10 hours. Put her on." More clicking. Then, "Grandfather?" Kira's voice. The voice he'd heard grow from a terrified 7-year-old girl who just lost her father into the steel-edged tone of a warrior who'd earned her trident. "I'm here, little warrior. I'm alive." "Are you hurt?" "Shoulder wound. I've had worse. Much worse." He looked around his living room, at the bodies, at the shattered furniture, at the photographs scattered across blood-stained carpet. "House is a mess, though. Your grandmother would be furious." "Grandfather, I'm fine, really." Graves brought friends, but he forgot something important. "What's that?" "I taught you everything I know. That means I know it too." He smiled even though it hurt. "We're both still here. That's what matters. We'll be there in 90 minutes. Stay on the line." "Can't. Police are pulling up outside. I need to deal with them." "But Kira..." "Yes? You did good. The mission, the way you handled Viper, the infiltration. Your father would be proud. I'm proud. I learned from the best." "No, you became the best. There's a difference." He could hear sirens now getting louder. Red and blue lights flashing through his shattered windows. "I have to go. See you soon." "Grandfather, I know. Me too. Now go be a SEAL. I'll be here when you land." He hung up as the police pounded on his door. 2 hours later, Kira burst through the emergency room doors at UC San Diego Medical Center with Captain Garrett, Viper, and Doc Reeves right behind her. The rest of the team was dealing with police, federal agents, and the mountain of paperwork that came with 4 dead bodies and an international terrorist. The nurse at the desk tried to stop them. "Family only." "I'm his granddaughter," Kira said, and the steel in her voice made the nurse step aside. Room 4. Roland sat on the examination table, left shoulder bandaged, arm in a sling, arguing with a doctor about discharge papers. I'm not staying overnight for observation. I'm fine. You were shot. Through and through, missed the bone, minimal muscle damage. I've been shot before. I'll be fine at home. The doctor looked up as Kira entered, saw the tactical gear, the bruises, the dried blood on her uniform that wasn't hers. And you are? His granddaughter, and his commanding officer. He's staying overnight. Kira's voice left no room for argument. Roland started to protest, saw the look on her face, and subsided. Yes, ma'am. The doctor nodded gratefully and left. As soon as the door closed, Kira was across the room, carefully embracing her grandfather, mindful of his injured shoulder. Roland wrapped his good arm around her and held on tight. You scared me, she said into his chest. Scared myself a little, he admitted. I'm getting old, Kira. 20 years ago, I'd have had them all down before they cleared the door. Tonight, one of them got a shot off. I'm slowing down. You survived 4-on-1 against trained killers. Because they were trained by people I trained. I knew every move they'd make before they made it. He pulled back, looked at her seriously. But that won't work forever. Time catches everyone eventually. Captain Garrett cleared his throat. Master Chief, I owe you an apology. We should have seen this coming, should have protected you. You protected my granddaughter. That's all I care about. Roland looked at each of them. How'd the mission go? Hostages recovered, weapons destroyed, PMC cell dismantled, Garrett reported. Your granddaughter held off 20 hostiles single-handedly for 3 minutes before we breached. Then she took point on the assault. She's the real deal, Master Chief. I know she is. Roland looked at Kira with fierce pride. She always has been. Doc Reeves stepped forward. Sir, I wanted to say, 33 years ago in Kuwait, you saved my life. Tonight, we're even. How do you figure? Your granddaughter saved 4 of us in that warehouse. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. Consider it paid forward. Roland smiled. The highest compliment you can give me is telling me she's better than I was. She is, Viper said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He met their eyes steadily. 2 days ago, I thought she didn't belong. I was wrong. She's one of the best operators I've ever worked with. Roland looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. What changed your mind? She had Graves dead to rights in Warsaw. Could have killed him, would have been justified. Instead, she took him alive so he could get help. That takes more courage than pulling a trigger. Wait, Roland looked at Kira. Graves is alive? In custody, Garrett confirmed. Military psychiatric facility. He'll stand trial, but Lieutenant Donovan insisted we get him treatment first. Roland's eyes glistened. Your father would have done the same thing. Chosen mercy over revenge. That's who he was. That's who you are. Kira felt tears sting her eyes, but didn't let them fall. I learned it from you. No, you already had it. I just taught you the tactics. He pulled something from his pocket with his good hand. His trident pin. The golden insignia he'd worn for 42 years. I want you to have this. Grandfather, I can't. You can. You've earned it. He pressed it into her hand. You've not only earned your own trident, you've earned mine. You showed me tonight what a true warrior looks like. Someone who saves lives instead of just taking them. He pulled her close again. I'm proud of you, more than I can say. The next evening, Team 7 Alpha gathered at a restaurant in Little Italy, the kind of place where locals went for pasta and wine and conversation that lasted into the night. Captain Garrett had reserved a private room. Roland sat at the head of the table, left arm still in a sling but his spirits high. The team filled the room with the easy camaraderie of warriors who'd bled together. Stories flowed. Doc Reeves and Roland traded tales from Desert Storm. Garrett added his own memories. The younger operators listened, hanging on every word, understanding they were hearing history from men who'd lived it. At one point, Viper leaned over to Kira. I owe you more than an apology. You saved my life in Gdansk. You showed me what it means to be a SEAL. Not the fighting, I already knew that. The honor, the mercy, the refusal to give up on people. You would have done the same. No, he shook his head. 2 days ago, I wouldn't have. But watching you, learning from you, you changed something in me. Across the table, Marcus Sullivan, Reaper, raised his glass. To Wraith, who proved that SEALs come in all sizes, but courage only comes in one, extra large. Everyone drank to that. Later, as the dinner wound down and the wine bottles emptied, Roland pulled Kira aside. I need to tell you something about your father. Kira's breath caught. They rarely talked about Patrick Donovan. The wound was still too raw, even after 31 years. When Patrick died in Mogadishu, I blame myself, Roland said. I'd trained him, given him the skills to be a SEAL. Those skills put him in a situation where he died trying to save people. For years, I wondered if I'd done the right thing, if I should have discouraged him from this life. But watching you these past 3 days, I finally understand. Your father didn't die because of what I taught him. He died because of who he was. A man who couldn't walk away from people in danger, who chose honor over safety. His voice broke slightly. And you're exactly the same. That's not training, that's character. That's the Donovan blood and the Blackwood legacy combined into something remarkable. He held up his glass one more time. To Lieutenant Kira Donovan, who proved that the slap heard round the base was just the beginning of a legend. Everyone raised their glasses, and Kira, surrounded by her team, her grandfather, and the brotherhood she'd fought so hard to join, finally felt like she belonged. Not because of her gender, not despite her gender, but because she'd earned her place through courage, skill, and the willingness to stand in the gap when others wouldn't. The next morning, as Team 7 Alpha prepared to deploy to North Africa, Kira stood alone on the roof of the medical center where they'd moved Roland to a private recovery room. The sun was rising over San Diego, painting the city gold. Somewhere in a military psychiatric facility, Dalton Graves was beginning the long process of healing. He'd stand trial eventually, but Captain Garrett had put in a word with the Judge Advocate General. Recommended treatment over imprisonment, a chance at redemption. Because that's what warriors did for each other, even the broken ones. Kira pulled out her grandfather's compass, watched the needle settle north. Then she pulled out her phone and recorded a message. This is Lieutenant Kira Donovan, call sign Wraith. 3 days ago, I was slapped and called a bitch by a teammate who didn't think I belonged. Today, that same man would take a bullet for me. That's not because I'm a woman breaking barriers. It's because I proved I could do the job. To every woman watching this who dreams of serving at the highest level, the path is hard. You will be doubted. You will be tested beyond what you think you can endure. But if you have the heart, you belong here just as much as anyone. Being a SEAL isn't about gender. It's about refusing to quit when everything says you should. It's about standing up when everyone else sits down. It's about honor, courage, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for something larger than yourself. The slap was the beginning, but it's not the end. It's never the end. Because warriors don't quit. We adapt. We overcome. We prove ourselves not with words, but with actions. She stopped recording and sent the message to Captain Garrett. He'd know what to do with it. Then she headed downstairs, where her team was waiting, where the helicopter was spinning up, where the next mission beckoned. She was Lieutenant Kira Donovan, call sign Wraith, Navy SEAL, and this was just the beginning.